Welcome to Real Life Beyond Faith, where a formerly Christian, currently atheist couple takes a deep dive into the experience of life after deconversion. This is episode 24. I'm your host, Jenica Crail.
And I'm your host, Patrick Crail. And I'm back. What?
I liked your reaction to this being episode 24.
Yeah. Forgetting what number we're on and realizing it's higher than I expected.
Right?
Plus, I missed last week, so.
No, you didn't miss last week. We did
That's right.
the interview with Mel Rice.
2 weeks ago.
You're like, I'm back, but we already did that last week.
Yeah.
You don't even know.
I'm still back, though.
You're lost in a sea of confusion.
I might be.
But anyway, so this episode, we're going to be talking about secular parenting and what it's like to parent as an atheist and how that's different from parenting as a Christian or as someone who is religious. We can only really relate or express, our experience with the Christian side of things because both of us were raised Christian. We weren't raised in, other faiths. But I feel like a lot of them are pretty much the same as far as parenting goes because you're teaching your children what to believe, like what is true, what is right based on your religious doctrine and the way that you're supposed to raise up your children in your faith. Whereas as an atheist or a secular person, it's a little bit more, each person does it differently.
Right.
I feel like
because
there's no doctrine.
Right. There's no atheist doctrine to teach your children.
Because atheism isn't a religion. Some people like to say that atheism is a religion, and that's just a load of bullshit because we don't have a doctrine that we live by. It's just simply the lack of belief in a God. And so that can't necessarily dictate what you do with your life or how you believe or how you raise a family. So you have to look outside of just atheism to figure out how you want to do those things, how you want to parent, how you want to interact in the world. That's where humanism comes in. But I think that atheism can inform your decision about those things, though. I feel like being an atheist and making that conclusion, or coming to that conclusion, rather, can help inform your decision on what you do with your kids. Because you're not going to go by a doctrine. You're not going to just believe authority without question. Really, to come to the conclusion of atheism, you have to question everything. And so that's something I feel like we want to pass on to our children, which is a huge, huge thing. I wasn't taught.
Yeah.
Personally.
And I'm sure to the surprise of many people, probably not the majority of our listeners, but the fact that we can, in fact, teach our kids morality without a religion.
Right. Because religion does not own morality. In fact, it is contrary to morality in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And for those of you who may be new listeners or maybe new to the idea of atheism, what I mean by the fact that religion doesn't own morality or that it may be contrary to reality is all of the ways in which religion actually hinders you from being a good person, from being open-minded, from accepting people for who they are. Morality is not causing harm to people, is being good for the sake of being good. And religion hinders that because it tells you, well, you can't be good unless you're this, this, and this, unless you maintain purity until marriage and don't have sex outside of marriage, unless you're not gay, unless you follow the scriptures and obey the commandments.
Plus, it's kind of like a merit system. Like, you do bad, you are not in God's favor. you have to follow a certain set of rules to please God to be able to make it into heaven. So it's not a merit system, a reward system of if you're good, you will be rewarded. If you're not, there are consequences, and those consequences are pretty serious in a religious point of view.
Yeah, which is a very ancient medieval way to look at morality or to look at ethics.
Right.
And we've evolved way past that. And yet some people are still stuck in that mindset because of religion, because of what it can do to your mind and how it can cause you to think so backwardly.
Yeah.
It's very disturbing.
And I even had that mindset for a short period of time when I was coming out of it. It's like, oh, so you're an atheist now, like you don't believe that this is wrong, or you can just do whatever you want. It was a short period of time, but I made it through and realized that that's not a fair comparison.
Yeah. And that's what we were taught in like conservative Christian churches, was that atheists have no basis for their morality. So really anything goes. You can be a murderer, you can be a thief, you can be a rapist. It doesn't matter because no one is holding you accountable. Yep. Nothing is stopping you. You don't have any foundation for your morality, which is absolutely absurd. Because, I mean, really, our morality as a species, as humans, comes from evolution. And you can see empathy and you can see morality even in animals. You can see it with dogs and cats and chimps and everything.
That's funny you mention that, because I actually saw a video today that someone posted on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it, but it was talking about something like checkmate. Christians like, well, what about morality in animals? They're not supposed to have morality. Where's the intelligent beings?
We're
like
the chosen ones.
Right. But it's this video of like an orangutan helping a fallen baby bird.
Oh.
A cat mother saving its baby. A dog, like golden retriever, jumped into some cold water and helped rescue a fawn, baby deer, out of the water because it was drowning.
Oh.
And pulled him out.
You're going to make me cry. And the thing is like, people will argue, well, animals have empathy because they're trying to save their own. Well, a dog saving a deer isn't helping that dog's own kind.
Or an ape saving a baby bird.
Yeah, it's from evolution. Our morality is because we're evolved to this level where we can have morality and we can have a concept of what is right and wrong based on what is most beneficial to the most beings, whether they're animals, humans, whatever. Some of us are a bit more evolved than others in the fact that some of us care a lot more for others than some people do. But
I feel like we could do a whole episode just on morality. And we should.
We probably should, yeah. But
because tonight, or whenever you're listening, this one is on parenting.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this does play into
This leads into the whole parenting thing, because it's not like we're raising our children just to, like, go out and do whatever you want because it doesn't matter because no one's going to punish you for eternity. Yep. No, like, we want this world to be the best world it could possibly be, because honestly, this is all we have. Like, recognizing that this is the only life we have and this is the only world we have, and that Jesus isn't going to come back and make it a new earth, and that, you know, climate change is a real thing, and that this world may not last much longer if we continue the way we are. Like, it matters to me. I don't want my children to grow up in a world worse than what I grew up in. I want them to grow up in a world that's better than mine. I want the people who I care about and, you know, people I don't even know to live in a world that's better than the one we have now. And I feel like it's my responsibility as an inhabitant of it now to make that world a better place. And one way I can do that is I can parent the best possible way I can.
Yep. Pass it on generation to generation.
Absolutely. So, obviously,
We have a rapist in Lincoln Park.
He's snatching up your children, trying to rape them. So you gotta
Hide your kids.
hide your wife.
And hide your husbands.
Because they're raping everybody out here.
But yes, obviously, one of the big topics that we're going to kind of go off of is our biggest thing is we are going to teach them to think for themselves and not be taught what to think, but how to think.
Yeah, and I feel like that's been a theme throughout our episodes so far. Anytime we talk about raising kids, we keep bringing up that we want to make sure that we're teaching them how to think, not what to think. And I think that that pretty much encompasses everything. And you can just turn the podcast off now.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.
Join us next week. Keep it real.
But in the meantime, no, but like for real, like if you really think about it and you boil it all down, teach your children critical thinking skills. Teach them to question things. I know for me, I was pretty much taught that authority was super important to obey authority.
Like they're the ultimate.
You don't question authority. You don't talk back. Oh, you do not talk back. Don't have an attitude. Don't talk back.
Don't question their requests.
Yeah. And we can see in the Catholic Church that doesn't go well in a lot of situations.
Yep.
These children are being taught that their priest is the person that they should respect and honor and obey above any other human.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do, and they get taken advantage of. And that's just one small example. I mean, I remember being in church and listening to sermons and thinking, well, this is, someone who is speaking on behalf of God. This person has prayed and asked for the Holy Spirit to speak through them, and now they're saying these words. I need to take these words to heart and take them seriously and obey.
And they can do no wrong. They're perfect people.
Well, I didn't necessarily believe that because I knew that no one was perfect. And even like in our church, like that was the big thing, is that we're all just broken, horrible, wretched people, including the pastor, including the preachers. But when they were giving a sermon or preaching, they would pray right before they gave the sermon in front of everyone and say, Lord, please speak through me. Please use my words to glorify you and to honor you and to accurately represent your word, and, so on and so forth. And so anything that they would say in their sermon, I would assume that God was honoring that and that I should obey and respect and, follow what they said. I didn't question.
Yeah. Well, not to mention it's heavily frowned upon to question the Bible, question God.
Oh, I mean, obviously you don't question the Bible. That's the ultimate authority.
Yeah.
But even just human authorities. Like, I remember there was one point when I was talking to a guy. This was when I was like 20 years old. I was talking to a guy that I was very, very interested in, like to the point of like pretty much being in love with him. We had been talking for a while. I wanted to date him. I wanted to marry him eventually. I was very naive. But
clearly he didn't make it.
No.
He didn't make the cut.
No. This was not Patrick. But I asked my pastor's wife. I remember it clearly because we were in the bathroom one day on a Sunday and I was talking to her and she was asking me how I was. And I said, well, I'm really struggling because I feel like God is telling me that I need to wait on this person, that this is the person I'm supposed to marry. But he's not, like, he doesn't feel like we're supposed to start dating. He's not sure if we're supposed to marry each other. And so he doesn't want to date me until he knows that we're supposed to be married. I was like, what do I do? Like, as a woman, as a godly woman, what can I do in this situation? And she said,
to submit.
Yes.
To submit.
But, I was thinking I have to submit to my husband, but do I have to submit to someone who I'm not even dating, who's just another person, just a man?
Mm-hmm.
She told me, as a woman, it is my job to follow his lead and to do what he says.
Wow.
And that no matter what decision he makes, it's the right one and I need to follow it.
Even if it takes however long to try to figure it out.
Even if he's emotionally abusing me in the process.
Yeah.
But she didn't say that, but that's what was happening. And like,
that's how people get taken advantage of and raped and abused.
I walked away from that fully on board. Like, yep, okay, you're right. Like, that's the godly woman way to be. I need to just listen and obey.
Sit down, shut up.
Yep. Whatever he says goes. I'll just be a good godly woman. And if I'm a good godly woman, then God will honor that and, bless me. But now I look back on that, and that is so, so messed up.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's just setting you up for getting taken advantage of in whatever way.
Yeah. Yep. And my emotions, my feelings in that situation were very much taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And it was hurtful. And it was hurtful like a couple years, because that's how long he led me on before he finally said, actually, God told me that this will never be a thing. And that's because I forced him to make a decision. I finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I can't do this. I can't live in this limbo forever. Like, you need to make a decision, yes or no. And he's like, well, it's just a no. So I punched him.
That's the appropriate thing to do.
It might not have been the most ethical reaction.
Yeah.
But sometimes if someone punches you in the chest, metaphorically, you just have to punch them in the chest, literally.
It evens out.
Yeah. It's all good.
Did he happen to be a Nazi?
No. Dang it.
But it wasn't his face, so.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna go there.
Don't. I wish you wouldn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, long story short, you don't just follow authority blindly. You question. Ask all the questions. Irritate the shit out of them. Because otherwise you can very easily be taken advantage of. And that's something that we want to drill into the heads of our boys. No, they're not going to be disrespectful. They're not going to be obnoxious. But they're going to know that if something isn't sitting right with them, if something doesn't feel right, they need to ask all the questions. And I believe firmly in that. I know, like, okay, I don't know about you, Patrick, but for me, because of the way I was raised, like, not to question authority, that I need to be like uber respectful of authority and stuff, I have a hard time even when it comes to confronting my managers at work.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I am justified in what I'm feeling, and I want to go to them and I want to lay it all out there. And even my managers, who some of them are the same age as me, I will go to them and I clam up and I get nervous and I trip all over my words and I feel like a complete idiot because I can confront everyone else. But when it comes to people in authority over me, I am just like a fucking basket case. And I don't understand. Like, I do understand. I know where it comes from. But it's so irritating because I wish that I wasn't like that. And I can see like some of my other coworkers who very easily talk to the managers and confront them and things like that and like ask for what they want. Yeah.
They don't
like
get fired.
They can complain and they can like say all the things. And me, I'm like, so
can I maybe get a bar back? Like when it's supposed to be really busy?
Thank you.
If it's not a problem.
If it's all right with you. And I walk away like, where did Jenica just go? She just like collapsed into the shell of herself.
Yeah. I do the same thing too. Like I get anxious whenever I have to try to confront someone an authority, especially like an employer.
Yeah.
Especially having to quit a job and tell them, hey, I'm not going to work here anymore. You got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That was always nerve-wracking for me.
Yeah. I think.
And it wasn't even like questioning authority. It was just like approaching them.
Yeah. I think that is a little bit tricky for a lot of people, though. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty common. But the fact that I like trip over my words just talking to my manager sometimes, I'm like, really? Get it together, girl. You got this. So weird. One of my managers sometimes listens to this podcast. It'd be funny if he listens to this one. You're like,
That's
oh,
funny.
really? He'll just start walking all over me now.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just kidding. Real quick, we're going to take a break. And then when we come back, we'll talk about parenting as an atheist. Hey there. If you like what we're doing and want to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/reallifebeyondfaith and become a patron for as little as $1 per episode. Your support is greatly appreciated and goes toward a podcast hosting site, equipment, time spent recording and editing, and our activism in our community and beyond. You'll also gain access to behind-the-scenes video content from our recording shenanigans. Another great way to support us is to give us a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher, or share our show on social media. You can find us at facebook.com/reallifebeyondfaith and Twitter at RLBFpod. And you can email us at reallifebeyondfaith@gmail.com. And we're back.
We're back. Oh, missed it. Sneaky.
We're so staged when we do that. It's like so obvious.
No, it's not.
Anyway, we're back. So parenting is fun and exciting and not stressful at all.
Yeah.
Feeling responsible for the lives of small human beings is totally fine. It's not stressful, not at all. Like, it's all good. It's so easy.
Yes, easy is the word.
In case you didn't catch it, we're being totally sarcastic. It's the most stressful thing in the whole world. It is so hard. And it's so hard, especially knowing that you have so much influence and weight in their life, and that you can make or break a person, kind of. So we've given a lot of thought to this, even with only having a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. You can say we're inexperienced parents, but I think about these things constantly. I'm always thinking like, okay, when they're a teenager, how do I want to do this? How do I want to approach this? And I think about my own, experience growing up, and okay, what did I like about my childhood? What did I like about what my parents did?
And what can I do better?
Yes.
Learn
and what do I want to throw out? Obviously.
Well, we already know one of them.
Religion.
Yeah.
But religion is so intertwined with everything else in parenting that to throw that out, you have to dig into all the other aspects of parenting and figure out, where did religion impact this part, and where did it impact this part? Where did it impact how I was taught about sexuality, how I was taught about my body, how I was taught about pursuing careers and as a woman? All of those things are so heavily impacted by religion. I have to step back and now reanalyze everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I've taken some time to do that. And I know you have too.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we want to talk about in this episode, and probably episodes to come. Honestly, I don't think we're going to cover everything in one.
Well, with them growing, we're going to experience new things as we grow as parents. We're going to learn new things. So
yeah, plus I'd like to have
it would be good.
parents of teenagers and, other secular parents come on and
Yeah.
share their
All
experiences
different age
too.
groups.
I was thinking about having like a guest on for this episode and decided for the first parenting episode, it'll just be me and you talking about like what we think about secular parenting. And then we'll bring on other people for like other parts of a series on parenting or something. I don't know. I'm just shitballing because I don't know.
Spitballing.
I'm
is the word.
shitballing. I'm shitballing.
We've been watching Disjointed on Netflix, and that's one of the products they sell.
Listen,
Olivia's
shitballing
shitballs.
sounds a lot better than spitballing. I'm just saying.
I'm not sure about that.
Debatable.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me feel better. Anyway. So, all right. So, a big thing for me is that I want to teach our boys proper sex education.
Yes.
Which is actually interesting timing to talk about this because I literally just came back from a meeting about comprehensive sex education and how to get that into our schools, our public schools in the area. Being a board member of the Tri-State Freethinkers, our big push this year is comprehensive sex ed. And I'm super excited that that's what it is because it's a huge passion of mine. And I think it's extremely important. Oh my God, it's so important. It impacts every part of our lives and our society. It impacts poverty. It impacts women in the workforce and careers. I can't even like go into pretty much any issue that we have, we can somehow connect it back to sex education and the lack thereof in our country. So that's something that I really want to make sure that we teach our boys. And now, coming from a secular perspective, we can teach them a more ethical, moral perspective and understanding of sexuality and their bodies and how beautiful their bodies are and not shameful. And I feel like I am talking too much and you're not
especially respectful towards other people's bodies.
Yes, consent.
That's a huge issue.
Which has been highlighted in the Me Too campaign.
Yeah, it's been coming up a lot lately. And we want to raise our boys to not be the kind of person that would do that to someone else.
Right. Whether it's a woman or a man.
Right.
Because we don't know what their orientation is yet. We don't even know if they'll be totally on board with their gender. So it's so cool to be a parent and know that I can accept and love my child for whatever and whoever they are. You know, whether they come out as gay or transgender or non-binary or whatever. I have the freedom to love and accept them exactly how they are. I can't even express how amazing it feels to know that. Because I remember when Ethan was a baby, I'd be up at all hours of the night with him, and I had plenty of time to think about all of the things because
what else are you gonna do when you're not
never
sleeping?
slept. It was horrible. And one of the things I thought about is like, oh my God, what if this baby I'm holding right now is gay when he gets older? Like, what if he, and at the time I thought, what if he decides to be gay?
Right.
Like, how am I going to handle it? Like, what am I going to do? Like, obviously I'm still going to love him. I'm still going to be his mother and do all the things that I should do. But what about his relationship with God? And how can I help him? You know? And you just feel so powerless and like I knew a lot of gay people in my life that I absolutely adored and loved, but it was different because they're not my children. And now, like, I have the absolute freedom to love my child for exactly who they are. It's absolutely liberating.
Unless they're a rapist.
Unless they're a rapist. And then Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to find you. So you should run and tell that. Homeboy.
Homeboy.
Yeah, but my children won't be rapists because we're going to teach them consent and we're going to teach them respect and bodily autonomy, and that other people's wishes come before their own when it comes to them touching other people. And we're teaching them already that because both of our boys don't like to be kissed on their face. And that is so hard for me because they have these big, pretty, luscious lips that I just want to kiss. I just love them. They've got their daddy's lips, and I'm just like, oh, I just want to give you a big smooch. But I don't because they tell me not to. And that is one way that I can draw that line for them and say, hey, consent is important. If you don't want me to kiss you, I'm not going to do that to you. And I think that's so, so super important to start that at a very, very young age where they know I can say no to this. And they can do it with their grandparents. They can do it with aunts and uncles. They can say, no, don't hug me. No, don't kiss me. They can say it nicely. They can be polite about it. But if someone crosses that boundary with them, that's on that person, not on my children. And I try to make that clear with our family as well. Because I know when I was younger, like it was understood that if one of my aunts or uncles or grandparents wanted to kiss me, I needed to take it because it was rude not to. Like I remember I used to turn my cheek whenever someone would come in for a kiss. And I was told that that was rude and that I needed to not turn my cheek.
But did you turn your other cheek?
Shut up. But think about that. Someone coming in, this big, old person that you barely know, coming in to kiss you on your lips, which is such an intimate thing. Yeah. Especially for a child. Like, I don't want a big kiss on my lips from someone who's stinky and old. Not to say that all old people are stinky, but a lot of the people in my family were smokers, and they would come in for a kiss on my lips, and I'm just like, fuck no.
That's awkward.
But I was told that it was rude to turn my cheek to them and have them kiss me on my cheek.
But the fact is, it's rude to take a kiss from someone who doesn't want it.
Well, yeah. But it's partly culture, the age of the people who were teaching me this, and just, mainly culture, because, kids weren't supposed to be rude to adults. You're just supposed to do what adults tell you to do.
Respect authority.
And consent wasn't important.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that we drill that into our boys' heads, especially since they're boys.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, when I was that age, when I was young, I didn't even, understand the concept of consent. It wasn't taught, so I didn't really know about it. But I knew, certain things made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But we, as parents, can teach them what consent is and what it's about and why it's important.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't really understand consent even as a teenager and young adult.
Right.
It wasn't until I became an atheist and got into this movement that I realized, oh, wow, this is super important. We need to be teaching our children this. And it's really sad that as a 27, 28-year-old, that's when I finally learned about consent and the importance of that.
And that's not to say that we did things without consent before then. We just didn't really know a whole lot about the concept of it, what it meant as far as, you know what I mean, though?
Yeah. I know what you mean, but the thing is not understanding consent for a woman means that you're more likely to be a victim. Means that you don't completely understand boundaries and when it's okay to say no, and
or change your mind.
Yeah. And for me, changing your mind. For me, I was so focused on trying to be kind and polite, and I felt like if I was flirty at all, then I was leading a guy on and I owed him something. And I didn't understand that I could say no at any point, that I could say no with my clothes off. I didn't understand that. I didn't know. Like, I felt like I owed something as a woman. And then not understanding consent on the man's side is extremely important too.
Yeah. And that's why we need comprehensive sex education.
Mm-hmm. Talk about from the man's side, like for you not being taught that, like you had to kind of just like go through life and figure these things out for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we were taught those things, but it wasn't taught under the umbrella of consent. Like, it wasn't pushed as much as we understand now. We basically were just taught like to respect other people, and
Like at school?
as at school and through church, parents. I mean, we weren't supposed to be doing anything sexual anyways until we were married. So,
Right, so they didn't even talk about that aspect
right.
and like where to draw lines and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't a big talking point. I mean, it was implied in other areas, but yeah, it's definitely a very important issue for both or any sex. It's important for women to know when they can draw the line. It's important for men to know so that they're not the ones causing the issues and
Yeah.
abusing people.
And, you know, men get abused as well. Men are victims of sexual assault as
Yeah.
well. So, yeah, it can be from all angles. You know, I often speak of women as being the victims because that tends to be the case more often because we tend to be smaller and weaker, and it's harder for us to defend ourselves against like larger, stronger
Mm-hmm.
beings. But that's just like that's like not even a stereotype, that's just like a physicality thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't include like transgender women and things like that. But it just tends to be that women are the victims of these things more than anything. But I do recognize that men are often the victims of this too.
That's right.
So everyone needs to understand consent. Women need to understand consent. They need to know when they need to stop. Stop pushing, stop flirting, stop being obnoxious. Like, women are just as guilty sometimes of crossing boundaries, of grabbing guys' asses. Like, I've heard stories of women in the workplace who, you know, use their position either of authority or as a woman who's probably not going to be called out for sexual harassment because it's
Mhm.
embarrassing for a guy to come forward and be like, hey, this person's sexually harassing me.
Right.
A
Not
lot
to
of
mention,
people
a
will,
lot of people probably wouldn't even believe them.
yeah,
Or
well,
like,
they wouldn't believe him, or they'd
oh,
be
just
like, dude, you like it.
Right.
Shut up, you like it. It's
yeah.
like, no, like that's the whole point. Like, I don't want her to touch me. So I don't want to downplay any of that either. So we went on for like a hot minute about consent, and I'm glad because I think consent is super important and I think it deserves a little extra time.
Yes.
But the other thing that I really want to hammer into my children, I keep talking about like hammering things into my children. I'm not going to hammer shit into my children, okay?
We're not going to brainwash them.
But as far as like teaching them things and making sure that certain things stick, these are the things that we want to stick. We want consent to stick. We want, you know, their sexuality being a beautiful thing to stick, and like questioning everything, being a critical thinker. Those are all things we want to stick. Another thing that I want to really, really stick with them is that science is so important and beneficial to our world, and the only thing that can save us
Yeah.
from like literally disappearing as a species and as a planet. So
Hopefully.
we're going to make sure that they know the difference between pseudoscience and real science. We're going to teach them the ways to tell the difference if they're like researching a topic, like how they can know like what is actually a reputable, evidence-based article versus
Opinion.
pseudoscience, opinion, and garbage.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I was not very good at. And I still am working at being better at. But I bought into vaccines being harmful, and I didn't vaccinate Jameson at first. And thankfully, nothing negative happened to him, but it very well could have, because he was susceptible to all the things that we are trying to eradicate, and it was my fault. You questioned me, and I said, no, I watched a documentary and I know all the things now.
Yeah.
But thankfully, he has all of his vaccines now. But that's the thing, like if you're not taught critical thinking in every aspect of your life, then it's very easy to not be a critical thinker in all the other aspects of your life.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to hear something that sounds good to you and not question it, not
Fact check.
Right, not fact check and take it at face value. Like people have biases about things that they are interested in or care about, and sometimes those sources aren't always right, or they could be harmful.
Yeah, like in the case of not vaccinating your children, like it can be deadly.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, science.
Yeah.
It's important.
Science, bitch.
Science, bitch. If you haven't watched Breaking Bad, you probably should.
You know.
Okay, so this is a big question that I think a lot of people have asked us. And by I mean I know that they have asked us.
How many are we up to?
How many people have asked?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. A lot. Or like not even just asked us, but like everyone has an opinion on it. I have a strong opinion on it.
I might, but I'm not sure what it is yet.
I don't know what I'm talking about yet because I haven't said. All right. So do you teach your children about religion? Do you talk about religion at all? Or do you just let them figure it out as they grow up and they can, look into things for themselves and decide what they want to believe in on their own? Go ahead. Answer the question.
No pressure.
I'm just curious if it's going to be the same answer as mine.
I feel like, yes, we do teach them about it because we can teach them what we know and not trust other sources to teach them false information or information that we don't agree with.
Ding, 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 ding. Totes agree.
Yeah.
No, I think it's really important for kids to know about religion and about like all of the different religions and all the things that people have believed and ancient religions.
Yeah. And we can teach it as a historical fact as opposed to like...
maybe not fact.
Well,
I wouldn't use that word with religion.
You know what I mean. It was fact. It was a fact of life for the people of that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. I'm just teasing you.
I know.
No, but like, yeah, like, no, but like, yeah.
No, but
what
like,
am I saying?
And whatnot.
And whatnot. You should also
#
watch
Disjointed.
which is a great show on Netflix. Oh, man, they should sponsor us.
Dude.
That
would be sweet. I don't even know how that would work, but...
They would have to give us a lot of marijuana and we'd have to be high for our episodes.
What, Netflix or Disjointed?
Disjointed. Anyway.
Speaking of, we saw Chris Cluey on...
Chris Cluey.
On Disjointed.
He
had an appearance.
Yeah.
And we met him in Carlisle.
Oh, he's
PA.
like our bestie. We're like besties with Chris
Like
Cluey.
Cecil?
Apparently you're besties with Cecil. He threw me to the wolves. Like, forget this girl.
Like
Patrick is my bestie now. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, but he...
And I said swear words to him on Twitter because of that.
That is rude. But also funny. But anyways, we met him in Carlisle for Marissa Alexa McCool's 100th episode celebration.
I like how we always use her full name. Like the whole name. Like her whole name is so cool.
Okay, Riss. When we saw her... But yeah, he had written some parts for her book. Mm-hmm. And
and Eli too.
Yeah. And he was there, and we got to meet him and hang out with him. And then we saw him on TV. We were like, Chris
Cluey, that's our bestie.
We drank scotch with him in a hotel room.
Yeah, and I remember little bits of it. Yeah. Oh, man. Good times. What were we talking about? Oh, talking about religion. Yes.
And also football.
And what? No, we're not talking about football with these children.
Oh.
Our children are not playing football.
I thought we were still talking about Chris.
Speaking of science, our kids are never playing football.
Golf it is.
Because science.
What about hockey?
Gah. No, that's bad too. Hockey. That's a high contact sport. They get concussions a lot too.
I've never gotten a concussion.
Yeah, well, you've been playing hockey for like just a minute.
Yeah, well.
Couple years.
What if, all right, tomorrow there's supposed to be a roller skating event. What if I brought my hockey stick and like got them little hockey sticks and teach them how to play hockey tomorrow? Just like bashed them in the head
with it?
No, not them.
Oh.
Teach them how to play hockey while roller skating.
No. I love my children and I don't want their brains damaged.
Oh my gosh.
They can dance.
Oh my.
They can be artists and musicians.
Well, there's a likely chance that they will be.
They're pretty much already inclined to those things.
Yeah, since we're both artistic.
They don't know the difference between a soccer ball and a basketball. And this has been evidenced over and over again as they're like, look, Mommy, it's a soccer ball. I'm like, no, that's a basketball. And they're like, oh.
Yep.
I'm like, but what instrument is this? That's a guitar. I'm like, thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of my parenting right now. So, yeah, like I want them to know all about the different religions, and I want them to actually be very well educated in those areas. Like, you know, what does Christianity teach? What does Islam teach? If you're in a conversation with someone who is a believer in this religion, you need to be able to answer their questions and understand like why it is that you don't believe in what they believe. And I also want them to be able to make the decision for themselves whether or not they believe, because obviously, like, that's going to be up to them. Like, I can't make that decision for them. They have to find what makes the most sense to them. And if it ends up being religion, well, that sucks. Because it's bullshit. But that's the nice thing about not believing in, like, not being on the other side and believing in hell or something. Like, I don't have to be on the other side thinking, well, if you disagree with me, then you're burning for eternity in torment. On my end of it, it's like, well, you might waste some of your life believing in stuff that's not true. And I will be very upset for you and won't want you to waste your life on things that aren't true, but it doesn't change the way I feel about you. It doesn't change how much I love you. So there's that. But yeah, I definitely think it's important to talk to them about it and explain like why we have come to the conclusions that we have.
Right.
You know? So I think that pretty much wraps it up for this episode.
Yeah, we had a lot to cover.
Yeah, I mean, and we still have more things that we would like to say on the topic, but like I said, we can have multiple episodes about this,
Mm-hmm.
and we
And
can
it's not an
bring
issue that's going to go
on,
away.
yeah, and we can bring on friends that we know who are
Yeah.
also atheists and also parents and do a damn good job. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll we'll definitely keep this conversation going, and I think it's a really interesting one and obviously something
Important.
that is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But we would like to thank our patrons.
What?
What? So we'd like to thank Marissa Alexa McCool for her contribution to our podcast. We really appreciate her and her generosity. And she would like to plug her new podcast called We Too, which is kind of a spinoff of the Me Too campaign where she reads a story from a survivor every week. And also her new book, Passing Cars, which is the internal monologue of a neurodivergent trans girl. And it's a very interesting read. I've been reading it, and I plan to read some little bits as I go along. I don't have one for you this week because we went a little over on time, but hopefully next week I'll have a new little excerpt for you.
We also want to thank Christopher for his support. He wants us to plug Tri-State Freethinkers. If you haven't heard already, they're kind of a big deal in the tri-state area of Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana. And we're also part of that group, and they do lots of community service projects and social events, do activism, community, education, and social.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much the most active secular group in the entire country. I'm
Even over American Atheists?
pretty positive. That's not a group. That's an organization.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe.
But also, I think we're an organization. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we are the most active group. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah. They're pretty big, and they do good stuff. Important stuffs.
And we'll rock your socks off with activism, community service,
Education
and social events.
I already said that.
All right, continue.
So if you live in the tri-state area and you want to get involved, check them out on Meetup, Tri-State Freethinkers.
Yes, and they have a website, tristatefreethinkers.com. God, I can talk. It's fine.
It's fine.
And even if you're not in the area and you think, wow, this group does a lot of really great stuff and they're making a huge change in the community and the country, then you can donate as well from afar. And that is also very much appreciated. We would also like to thank Rich Kemp. I'm just going to go ahead and say his whole name because you know what? He's been a patron of ours for a while. He's an awesome person and very active in the secular community. And I'm pretty sure he wouldn't mind his whole name being out there. So thank you, Rich, for being amazing. And he would like to plug Recovering from Religion, which is an organization that helps people who are leaving religion or have left religion and just need support. You can go to recoveringfromreligion.org and everything is there, including resources that you can check out. And the
places to go for support.
Dude, I just said that. And the Helpline Project, where you can either call in and talk to a real person on the phone, or you can do the chat line where you can chat with a real person in real time and get somebody's support and perspective, and also some awesome resources because they can actually point you to the resources that would be helpful specifically for your situation. So it's really great.
Thanks, Rich.
And lastly, we would like to thank Thomas Smith of Serious Inquiries Only. His podcast takes a critical thinking look into topics such as science, religion, politics, and anything relevant in the news or whatever. And he talks to a lot of really interesting guests and gets some differing opinions on topics. It's always a very fascinating listen, and it's one of my favorite podcasts. So check him out as well.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks, man. Well, thank you so much, guys, for listening this week. It's been a pleasure. I hope that you've gotten something out of it, and we hope to catch you next time.
But also, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback about parenting as atheists, feel free to send us a message or write on the group page Real Life Beyond Faith on our Facebook. And that is in the description box.
God damn it, Patrick. If you're going to say a thing, know what you're going to say, man.
I don't know what to say. I'm
right,
sure
you
there's
be
a
quiet.
decent enough somewhere in there.
Shh. But in the meantime,
Keep it real. And if you guys have any kind of questions or comments or feedback about parenting as atheists, feel free to check us out at Facebook /
stop it. That we already did that in the break. It's all covered in the break.
Okay.
Do you like my beard?
Yes, that's a very nice.
I've tied my dreads underneath my chin, and Patrick likes it. Break time.
Break time.
All right, hold on. We'll You don't have to come and confess. They're looking for you. They're gonna find you. They're gonna find you. You were creaking the whole fucking time, though.
I was not.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
Have fun editing this
This is gonna be fun. So we'd like to thank Marissa Alexa McCool for
one. Being a patron.
Stop it. I've got this. Be quiet.